Hello everybody, I still owe you some comments on basics of business administration on the chapter marketing and now I'm going to do that. Well, let's first think about what we can regard as marketing. I found, for example, one definition which I want to give to you: the process of planning and executing the conception, the pricing, the promotion, and distribution of goods and services in order to facilitate exchanges between customers and supplier, evidently, that satisfy the objectives of the individuals and the organizations involved. So the idea is to facilitate transactions in a way that both contracting parties are satisfied and everything which has to do with that. That's a bit surprising because we naturally always have in mind that marketing is always and only about selling things to other people which these people perhaps don't need. But now the definition says, and experience also tells us, that marketing, at least in the long run, cannot be successful if you do not really do something what other people really want and need. Although sometimes what people really need might be surprising. Naturally, marketing experts are interested in what people really want, how they can satisfy their needs and what these needs are. And as you know, we have a subconscious, and it might be surprising to the one or other person which needs one also has, although we do not really know about them. Well, marketing has many fields where it is relevant. For example, the fields of exchange, buying, selling goods. Then marketing has to do, or to say a word, in how you distribute your products, how you store them. Then you want to facilitate exchanges, so to facilitate contracts. So you have to think about which quality of the product does my customer really want, which quantity. For example, a heavy smoker is not somebody who can be satisfied with very small packages. So if you see that you have heavy consumption of a product, probably a bigger quantity should be sold or should be on offer. On the other hand, it makes no sense to sell food in quantities of 10 kilogram or so if there is only a single person household, or if that is the average case. So you will have to look to your customers in order to decide about that. Sometimes your customer has financial restrictions, so designing the price, the payment conditions in a way that they are the most easy ones for the consumer might be a good idea, or thinking about helping the consumer with finance problems might be an idea. Also, marketing has to do about risk assessment, and you must obtain information about all the relevant things. So many things are relevant, and here on these slides I just give you some hints on that. So we can skip that now. That's something to read up. The first basic step in marketing is usually find out if there's anybody out there who needs something. So you look to the market, and now you want to find out which group of people exists who share common needs. So that's called market segmentation. You do not divide the market into different segments. The segments are there and you have to look at them. They have an objective existence. There are different groups of people outside, and your task is it now to identify these groups, to see how big or small they are, and to react. So consumers have different tastes, different needs, different amount of money, and all that characterizes them, at least under an economic aspect. Somebody who has a need for something but can't pay for it is probably not an adequate customer for you. Is interested in a cheap product, but if you can only offer that product at a high cost, then that will not be a match. So the first basic step is just to find out which people are out there and to identify them, which needs do they have, and then to react about that. Now, if you know the different groups of consumers, you can choose a group where you are able to serve their needs with a product which you can produce or offer in a profitable way. Now, knowing how many people of the same needs are outside there, that already then helps in deciding, for example, which technology for production is possible. Mass production is not possible if there is not a mass of people outside there. But if it's only a small niche of people, 10 or 100 are interested in your product, then certain consequences for the production technology already follow. Now, when you see there are groups of people outside there interested in a certain product, then you can decide or think about which group you are going to serve. Now you can either select a group which has been overlooked by most of the other suppliers. So where you will have a unique standing, you are probably the only supplier who sees the needs of these people. Or look for a group of people where you can offer a better product than all your competitors, or where you can be faster, or so on. So what you basically do is, what do these people need, and where can I offer them satisfaction for their needs or be better than the people who do that already. So you look for a target group, the group which you are going to address. So target marketing is what we call the selection of groups out of a market which you can serve profitably. Okay. Now, how can you find out the groups of customers existing outside there? Well, according to the criteria which makes them different, naturally, which makes them different with regard to their needs, to their purchase behavior. So nobody is interested in if people are black, white, blue, or red. But if that influences their customer needs, then might be different. For example, you might have geographic criteria. Imagine if you sell a car to somebody in Germany and a car to somebody in England. Now in England you will have to offer a different car, because in England the driver is sitting on the right side, I hope so at least. Yeah, so you can't offer the two people, the German customer and the English customer, the exactly same product. Impossible. So if you want to decide how many England suitable cars you're going to produce, or how many continental cars you're going to produce, you must know about the number of people interested in your car in those countries. So geographical aspects might play a role. If you don't know how many of your potential customers are in England, you probably completely underestimate how much items of your England variant of your car you have to produce. Then people show different behavior according to their age or income. Imagine you want to offer pop music to the people, or you want to organize parties for young people. Now, you should know then how many young people are outside there in my city. For example, to organize parties for young people, um, there might be a city where you have masses of young people. Then you have a big potential customer group. On the other hand, you might end up to strand somewhere in Wilhelmshaven in Germany, where the population is, in the average, relatively old. Now, very old people are probably not the best customers for parties, or at least there you would have to develop some special ideas. You can't offer them the same as young people at an age of 18 or 20. That's immediately clear, but you need to realize that. The income of people is different and makes their needs different and their interests. You can't offer a millionaire who earns 10 million a year a life insurance policy, or policy, I don't know the exact word. You can't offer a millionaire a life insurance which grants a payment of 100,000 in case of death. They will be completely uninterested. That's the wrong movie for these people. On the other hand, if you have an average consumer with an average, relatively low income, naturally they are interested in this insurance, probably. People, according to their educational history, have different tastes, different behavior. Who never learned to read and write is not the best buyer for a book. There you would have to offer audibles. The same if somebody has very bad eyes, then you would have to offer audiobooks. Demographic segmentation is that according to the demographic characteristics of people. So if you offer typical products for young people, it is important to know how many young people are outside there, what is their average income, or what is their income, and how many people are outside there with the same characteristics. Lifestyle, the things which people value, their attitudes and interests. So psychographic characteristics also can be used to distinguish people. Or, as I already brought forward, volume-orientated segmentation. Heavy drinkers, heavy smokers have different needs than occasional drinkers or nearly never smokers. So all that might be interesting to take that into account. And now that makes it understandable why marketing experts are always so keen on getting data on consumers. Now, when you know about your consumers and when you find out, for example, there is a certain group of people probably out there, 100,000 people having approximately this and this income and these interests, then you can think about which product you can offer them and which quantities of products that makes possible. So your potential sales can be estimated. You can form ideas if it makes sense to offer these people a certain product. And very often, if you know things about your consumers, their attitudes, their songs, their preferred style of clothes, you can draw conclusions from that and can design products which fulfill the probable needs of exactly that group of people. And as I already said, you can either target a very large group of people, then you probably are not alone. A large group of consumers has probably not been overlooked by everybody else. It's not probable that you are the very first person. So then you would have to think about, um, yeah, how can I offer a product which covers the needs of all these people and be better than my competitor? Or you can concentrate on a very small group of people, a niche in the market. So a group which has not been noticed or not been served by many other competitors, then that might be more profitable. But on the other hand, you will not see a very, very big growth of your production, because if there are only, let's say, 10,000 people outside there in the whole world which are interested in your product, that limits the amount of sales which you can really reach to a maximum of 10,000, and probably it's only half or 30% of that. It can even be possible that people try to combine the both strategies by serving different small groups. So just developing one basic idea of a product and then creating variants which are specialized or which have been customized directly addressed to the specific needs of that small group. So similar products made or modified in a way that they please the needs of the different groups. All that's possible. Imagine now how that would work in practice. Imagine you have made some studies on the market and you found out more and more people have overweight and are unhappy because of that. Then you might find out more and more people will be interested in getting food with low calories, less amount of calories, which enables you to stay slim or to reduce overweight, and which on the other hand probably still tastes good. So they also have information on how they have a need for information, how they could feed themselves in a way that they don't get fatter and fatter. Yeah, by the way, if you knew my weight, you know why I chose that example. So that's rather a personal thing, which is a problem when you are beyond your 30s. And your brain goes down and your weight goes up. That's just happens. Now, when you find out there are so many people interested in getting or reducing overweight, and you can try to design food appropriate for those people, or to develop, to sell information to them how they can reduce their overweight or combine both. So from seeing there is a group of people, you can react by designing a proper product. Good. That's the way how you, the business owner, can design your own offer. Now, naturally, if you want the consumer to buy, you also should know about how consumer purchase decisions work. For example, it might be that you make an offer to a consumer where, especially at the moment when the consumer is not willing to think about buying. There are such situations. For example, it's a very, very bad idea to offer somebody a new car during a funeral. Most people are not willing to think about purchasing new stuff at that moment, and the few ones who would are probably not the customers which you would like. So it's always then good to think about how do consumers decide. And naturally, marketing experts do a mass of psychological research in practical life to find out what's going on there, how people really decide and react, and what creates and what generates attention, and where people rather react with reluctance and so on. So knowing about how consumers' minds work is important. Now let's begin with the first basic insight. How is a consumer decision structured? Well, first is consumer sees I have a problem, I need something, I lack something, I want something. So you see there's a problem. Now you look around, what can I do? That's the phase of information search. You look, is there any possibility what I can do? Now you see several things which you can do, so you begin to evaluate the alternatives. What is probably best? In the end, then you make a purchase decision. I'm going to buy this. For example, this car. And now scientists have found out that usually after you made a decision, some doubts are coming up. Was that really the best thing to do? And now, if you leave that customer alone with that feeling, probably customer will be a bit unhappy. Spend 20,000 on a new car. Was that really a good idea? Should I have waited? Should I have taken a less expensive car? And so on. And so when they found that out, they said, if a marketing expert wants to keep the customer, and you should support the customer's psychological processes in that phase of events, and people will only renounce on that if they are clever. When you are a customer who just by the nature of things never comes back. So, for example, when you go into a tourist cafe somewhere in Venice or so, might be that you pay some 20 euro for an ice cream. That's horrible, but and that later you will always regret it. How could we? But in that case, it plays no role because you were a tourist, you showed there up for one day, you will never come back. The supplier, the owner of the ice cafe, is completely uninterested normally in what you think about the visit there later. Now, when you sell people a car or so, it's highly risky to leave people alone in that first purchase evaluation, buyer's remorse phase. Why? If you think I bought a Volkswagen, I was not happy. So you might change over to another kind of car next time. And so, did you ever realize that very often when you see an instruction manual for a technology device or so, how that instruction manual begins? We congratulate you on the purchase of this blah blah device. They just want to strengthen your feeling. It was a good decision to buy that, just to make sure that you feel confident and probably stick to that brand next time too. So they want to support you during that last phase of events in your consumer decision process. Now, there are many influence factors on a consumer's decision. And now the basic message is most things are things which you can't influence as a supplier. For example, psychological influence, how these people see the world, how they learn, how they are motivated. That is something which you cannot influence. You just have to take that as a given factor. It's probably not possible to influence the way how a person sees or the world or reacts to the offers of other people. There are social and cultural influences. We are all members of groups, our family, social class. We are living in a certain culture. And there are norms and standards, written ones and unwritten ones, in that surroundings, which we probably follow and which determine our behavior. As I already told you, it is probably a no-go, completely chanceless to approach somebody with an offer for a new car during a funeral. You should never even try that. Or to offer a special wine during an occasion where at least 20 Iranian ayatollahs meet. Absolutely chanceless. So, and you are not going to change that, not with the best marketing efforts, and probably not even with using a gun. So these things are hard facts. You must know about them. So marketing experts are, for this reason, always interested in how is life really working? How do human minds function? And also situational influences. That's, by the way, that's more the funeral situation. The social cultural influences are more the ones which are 24 hours a day. So with the Iranian ayatollahs, you probably can't sell them wine at any time of the day, whereas the person visiting the funeral will probably 10 days later be open for a suggestion to buy a new car, but only not in that situation. Okay, so we have three factors which determine your decisions, and then we have a fourth one here, number 3 in the middle, the so-called marketing mixed influences. That are the only things which marketing can take an influence on. So the things where the supplier's behavior comes into play. What's my product? How do I design it? And so on. The price, that's something which the supplier can decide on, but that's something which influences the consumer decision. You all know psychology there plays a role. A product for €5 sounds harder than $4.99. There are people who like the psychological pricing. The place where things take place, so the way of distribution, where can you buy something, has a strong influence on your behavior. If somebody tells me you can buy chocolate for half the price, but you have to walk 5 kilometers till you go there, and that is far difficult, and that's very different from if I can just step over the road and go some 10 meters and then buy the chocolate for the same price there. So the place where I can obtain things influences my behavior. You see that also if you open your eyes when you have nice shopping malls. It's an atmosphere like visiting a palace. It's complete entertainment. It's an adventure. Instead of going to the jungle and fighting with crocodiles, that's not everybody's favorite idea. You go to a shopping mall and experience the extraordinary events. I have been there. Good. Now, and promotion activities, so advertisements and other things. These are the only influences which marketing can decide on. All the others are given, and naturally, if you are interested in marketing research, you have to deal with all the four factors. Okay. By the way, the marketing mix influences, these four keywords here all begin with a P, so sometimes they are labeled as the 4P of marketing. Okay. So product, price, place, and promotion are the variables which you can really influence. All the rest is set and given. Now, another big, strange question shows up. We all think we are rational beings, and we imagine ourselves sometimes as a kind of a logical working entity, a computer on legs, just with some additional feelings or so. And we want to make reasonable, rational decisions. And now we can observe that in the outside world, people do strange things. They buy a pound of coffee for, let's say, €5, although they know that there is another store a bit more far away where they can get it for 4. Technically, it's exactly the same product. So, a bottle of water, here. You can buy it either for 20 cents in shop A or for 25 in shop B. Now, normally, if information is there for all customers, you should expect that shop B is going to become bankrupt in the long term at least, because product is cheaper in shop A. But you will observe that's not true. You will have people who still visit shop B and pay 25 cents. And that's surprising, and that needs an explanation. And the explanation is the customer does not see the technical aspect of the product alone. So this bottle of water is not our product. The product is everything which is combined with the purchase. So there is a kind of a total product, and that is on what we decide. The total product consists of the product, the package, the service after purchase, the speed of delivery, the reputation of the seller, an image, so feelings created by advertising, and so on. All that plays a role. So if you buy a bottle of water from 2 different people, one smiling and one impolite, this is no longer the same product, because for you, for your mind, the product consists of variant A, a bottle of water and a nice smile, combined with that, and variant B, a bottle of water and a repugnant face. So that is what you buy, and that explains, for example, why personnel, if polite, is valued by customers and why they are willing to pay a higher price. The bottle of water sold with a smile is no longer the same water bottle as the bottle of water sold with an angry face. The same bottle of water in a nice package is nicer, something completely different for your mind than the same thing with another package. So now that explains why people behave differently or illogical as we think, and pay, for example, 25 cents for a bottle of water, which seems to be identical. The answer is the product which they buy is not identical. And so That makes things uncomparable, and that explains why the shop with 20 cents for the bottle of water and the shop with 25 can both survive, because there will be differences concerning the other aspect of the product. Very often that gives chances for you. Imagine when you want to enter a market where you have already a huge number of competitors, then you must distinguish yourself from others. Because if you offer a bottle of water for 30 cents and you have the bad face, then it's clear you can't compete. So that's not possible. But what you can do is you can look to one of the aspects combined with the product and distinguish yourself from the other suppliers by being better in that aspect. And there will be probably customers who value that part of the total product offer by the decision to buy in your shop. So to buy yours. Imagine fair traded coffee. There you buy coffee and you buy a good conscience. So there are people who never had a conscience. There are, for example, politicians. Perhaps they had one, but they got lost. And there are other people who have some kind of conscience, and then they would say, okay, it's a bit more expensive, but on the other hand, I'm doing something good. I don't really care about 5 or 10 additional cents, but I do something good in some place of the world by buying fair traded coffee. That's worth it. So I'm going to decide for that. And now, if you can design or find a product which addresses such a need, you can combine it with your product and so make a certain group of people a bit more happy. So market research would now look which things people want, and you would look for everything combined with the product, so you would always have that total product offer in mind. You can even use these insights deliberately. For example, if 1,000 types of beer are the same from the consumer perspective, you might add a difference just by the environmental question, adding that on top. Buying one beer of my brand, that leads to a donation of €10 for the sustainment of the rainforest. That all has already been done. So here again, the offer here would be beer plus a good conscience. And if you have somebody who has a bad conscience because of drinking too much beer, that might be an interesting combination. You can even use that, for example, to justify a higher price or to mask a price increase. Imagine soup, €3.50, soup number 2, €4.20, including a donation of 70 cents for the rainforest, or €4.50, including a donation of 80 cents for the rainforest. Then the idea is price of €4.50 or €4.20 would probably be felt by yourself as rather too high for a soup. Now, on the other hand, you have now an explanation why it's higher. Okay, 50. Okay, rainforest, don't really care for the rainforest, but okay, you can now see why it's €4.50. Yeah, okay, I like that kind of soup now I'm going to buy it. And later, probably when you get used to the fact that the soup can also cost €4.50, although everywhere else it only costs 350, then it might be that after a certain while that donation campaign is dropped. And then you order soup number 3, pay 450, and you have already been used for 1 year or two. That soup number 3 costs 450 there. The psychological resistance so has been removed. You have got used to it, and so that might be a clever idea. But when it comes to that total product offer, which people view as an entity, you have here a small overview about everything which is combined with that. Price, the brand, the convenience of how you are served, package, your past experience with that supplier, the surroundings in a shop. There are some shops where you can buy very, very cheap stuff, but they look so horrible that usually you don't enter them voluntarily. Only if you see only the price, the technical aspect of the product. If you are able to ignore everything else, then you go there. Otherwise, you probably say, no, that's such a horrible shop. Don't feel well there. Service, everything else that plays a role. And now when you distinguish yourself by one of these aspects, it might be, no, then it will be that for your consumers, your product is no longer the same product than the product offered by your competitor. So they would accept a different price. And so they will perhaps decide for you because from their perspective, your product is the better product. And that's highly important to see. Naturally, it would be illogical to buy a bottle of water for 25 cents if you can also obtain the exactly same bottle, here it is again, for 20 cents somewhere else. But now, as the total product offer counts, this is no longer the same bottle of water if you got it from different hands, in a different store, with a smile or without a smile. All that plays a role. And only people who do not see and have no feeling for the rest only look to the price. So that gives a producer good chances. To find out now about these things, how a customer buys, you have to do research. You must find out what are the cultural restraints, how do people behave under social cultural aspects, or which other determining factors for their behavior and their decisions exist. Their marketing research is done, and that can be done qualitatively, so you gather data from small groups and ask them, for example, ask experts, or you can do statistical studies, you can make experiments. All that is done in real world in order to find out how people decide. So in order to find out how one can adapt one's own offers to how people really think and what they really need or to what they really react. One sometimes distinguishes primary research and secondary research. So you create the research directly for marketing purposes, or you do some data mining in already existing researches. Yeah, let's think about some strategies. First, the first aspect where you have an influence on from the 4 Ps, product, place, promotion, and price, naturally. Is the product. Now you can decide, for example, for product differentiation. That means the total product you offer to person A and the total product you offer to B is made a slightly bit different in order to make it attractive for both of them. It might be, for example, that one of the consumers has the feeling I want to get something special. For example, everybody has a watch. I want to have a very special watch. Um, Now, naturally, the watch, okay, you have some people in assembly belt probably producing watches, then naturally there are economies of scale due to mass production. But now when it's a mass product, you are not going to sell this watch to some people. They want something special. Now what you could do is you could introduce a small variation in the product, for example, that apart from the technology, the only the outer appearances change in a way which looks a bit more noble. Then this consumer will also be interested in that variant, in that product, so you can serve both. You can produce the very cheap variant, probably with a Mickey Mouse face on top, so that a grown-up person feels a bit, ah, it's so cheap, but I'm not going to buy it because it's rather ridiculous. And the other variant, gold and diamonds on top. Same technology, same, basically, technically, the same watch, but now it looks different, and now you can sell the same thing for a far higher price also to the person who is interested in obtaining something special. Product differentiation is in a certain way trick, because once there is a small variation, the two variants are no longer the same product under the total product offer theory, and so you can destroy the comparability. For most consumers, the two variants are no longer alternatives. You cannot now address a certain group of people immediately. For example, the watch with Mickey Mouse on top might be targeted for children, small income, and having an interest in Mickey Mouse, whereas the golden watch might be fitting for the banker. And you have now, by that variation, created a product which more specifically serves the need of a certain group of people. Okay. Sometimes it's more easy, sometimes it's more difficult to do product differentiation. For example, some basic product like sugar, milk, and bread. It's very difficult to create differences there. Shopping goods like clothes or shoes, good possibilities. Special goods and services also. Some goods there you don't need much product differentiation because they are needed unexpectedly, and the consumer has to decide to take whatever is offered, like repair services, a funeral, or you have lost your key and need somebody, a key specialist, to open your door. Then you have usually to take the only person who is on service at the moment, or you have a choice between one or two. So there is probably not a big need, and under that aspect you can distinguish different kinds of product. Now, one of the aspects of the product is the package. You must know about the functions of the packaging. First, it should protect the goods against damage during transport. It shall also attract attention and convey a good image. You should be able to find out from the package what's inside. There should be provided information and indications of price and value and so on. And so you will have to fulfill some basic requirements by the package, but you can also use it to differentiate a bit, attract attention by design, a good design, and so on. Very often the package has a high impact on the consumer willingness to buy. For example, when it comes to perfume and similar products, cosmetics, the package is usually the most decisive factor which influences people to buy, because the rest is rather things which you don't see. Okay. Then the brand, another aspect of the total product. The brand is the name and the symbol which identifies the product, and usually you connect some ideas with the brand. It has a certain image, or so you have made the experience or have learned from others. That is a good thing if it's called this. So you connect some ideas with the brand, either positive or negative ones, and that is also an influence which counts for you. It's a part of the product, the brand. That is, by the way, why for the permission to use a brand, sometimes firms pay to somebody. If a brand has a very good image, some people try to use it for their, or to transfer that image to their own products, and so they pay a license fee to be able to use that brand for their own products too. Okay. Naturally, when you want to design a product, you will also have to think about the process of developing a new product. Also, that is something which marketing has to deal with. So you would have to think about the total product offer, market research. You must know about what the market expects. You must know about the possibilities to differentiate the product and all that. Good. Then next aspect of the marketing mix will be the price. And now allow me and you a short break, and then we are going to go on later. Okay, let's go on with talking about a bit about the price. When it comes to the price as an influence factor for purchases of customers, or as a marketing instrument, then you must first think about the aim which you want to reach with the price. First, it might be that you want to maximize your return on investment or profit. There are, for example, functions showing the interdependence between price and demand, and there you can, if you have sufficient data, fix the best price which leads to the highest sales revenue or which leads to the higher profit. That's just a question of mathematics and of obtaining the data. Nevertheless, prices also have different functions. You can, for example, have the aim to generate customer traffic, so to attract customers by special offers. Then you don't really earn much money by these offers, but the function of the price is now not to generate profit, but to attract customers to your shop. And when they are there, probably they begin to shop also other things. And that is then the function of the price for that specific product. The function of the price might also be, or the aim of setting the price might also be to achieve a market share. For example, you know that your fixed costs per item get lower and lower the more items you can produce and sell. And so naturally it could bring you an advantage to achieve a huge market share, so to cover a huge percentage of all the customers which exist, because then your fixed cost per item would be relatively low. Your costs of production of an item are low, and that could mean that nobody else could be better than you. Imagine there is 1 million customers in a market, and you can sell to 600,000 of them. Now your fixed cost would be divided by 600,000, so a relatively low amount per item is the result. And now when you think about all potential competitors, if they have the same fixed cost, the only thing which is left from the market is 400,000 other customers. So if they have to bear the same fixed cost and divide that then by 400,000, they cannot become cheaper than you are. So achieving a high market share might give you a comparative cost advantage over your competitors, and that might save your life, because your competitors can never successfully enter then into a price combat with you. Under similar conditions, you are unbeatable. You can also use a price to create an image. There are certain luxury goods which naturally have the image that they are high priced. So you cannot lower the price there. It must be, the price belongs to the impression, or the price contributes to the impression this is a very, very exquisite, special product and makes it attractive. So price can be chosen for creating the image. Or you can even set prices for social objectives. For example, a friend of mine told me years ago that there are countries in Europe where butchers and others lower their prices before Christmas, because they think, at least at Christmas, also the poor families should have the possibility to buy an exquisite meal. So rather the opposite reaction to what you would expect from the traditional price and demand function. Just a social objective. We want to be nice to the people, at least at Christmas. Good. Another thing which also plays a role for the development of prices is something which you must know. There is something called a product life cycle. That is not the life cycle of the individual product, so not of one individual bottle of water or so. It's just the life cycle of the certain category of product, so of the invention. Let's think about DVD players. Once a DVD player is invented, that's the introduction phase. Then usually that new product has a small limited amount of customers because it's not relatively widely known. So usually high prices, small amount of customers for that new product. An alternative development would be that the producer directly starts with a very low price with the aim to penetrate the market relatively quickly, so to end up relatively quickly with high consumer numbers. But at least at the beginning you always have an introduction phase. Now, when that new product begins to become more known and better, is more familiar to people, then more and more people buy it. That's the growth of the market. You can sell more and more. In that case, usually competitors arrive, and it's no longer possible to fix the price as you wish. so price probably will go down a bit. Then there will be at a certain point of time a moment when nearly everybody has a DVD player or has that product. That's the stage of maturity. It's more and more difficult to sell additional items apart from replacement. Now, not every product goes, breaks up, down quickly. So during the maturity phase or stage of events, the numbers which you can sell go probably down. Then the price will probably again be lowered because it's difficult to sell, so you will have to lower prices. The last stage of events is then the decline of the product. When everybody has a DVD player, then it's difficult to sell, and well, new products come out. For example, Blu-ray players, improved products, which start then again a new product life cycle. So Blu-ray players are introduced. More and more people buy Blu-ray players, stage of growth for Blu-ray players, but DVD sales are in decline because due to that new product, less and less people are interested in DVD players. So probably in the end, only a very small number of people remains. So you have a niche of the market where people are still interested in DVD players. That's a typical life cycle of an innovation of a product: introduction, growth, maturity, and in the end, decline. One should know that because there are different price strategies possible in the different phases. When you want to generate a price or to find a reasonable price, there are different approaches. The traditional one is just calculate what are my costs, the full cost, then I add a profit margin on top. For example, producing my product cost me 100 euro. I want to make a profit of 10 or 20% on that, so I add 10 or 20 euro. So I demand a price of 110 or 120 euro for my product. Now, this can only lead to a first idea of what the price should be, because naturally, in the end, what the customers are willing to pay, that's the decisive point. And naturally, you will have to make a look to your competitors' prices. And so, if you just make cost-based pricing at all costs, then it might be that you calculate yourself out of the market. If your price idea is too high, then it might be that nobody buys from you. But to generate a first idea of what you must get for your product, cost-based pricing is naturally very important. You can also have or choose the opposite approach, demand-based pricing. That would mean you go along and ask customers what they are willing to pay for a certain kind of product. For example, what would be the best price which you can imagine for yourself for a small notebook? Now, if people say, oh, no, at the moment they are all too expensive, but 300 euro, that would be a fantastic price. If you find out more and more people have that idea, then you could say, okay, if we can manage to produce a product, a computer which can be sold for 300 euro, then many people will be interested. So we try to do that. Then you could begin to do the calculation the other way around. If in the shop the product is going to cost 300 for the final consumer, then let's say we cannot ask more than 150 for selling it to the retailers. So 150 should be enough to cover our costs and our profit. Then you can make a kind of a budget. We want to earn, let's say, 25 euro from selling it. Then we can spend 125 euro on producing that product, and then you can begin to design what are the necessary elements of such a computer and which nice add-ons, which are not indispensable, can you add just to use up your budget of 125. And in the end, you can say, okay, we can now produce for 300 euro final consumer price a nice computer, and we are going to offer that to the customers. So in that case, first the price is given from the demand side, and then you begin to develop the product just according to the budget which you have then available. Competition-based pricing is another approach. You just look to your product, look to competitors, what do they ask, and then try to choose your price with an eye to the competitor prices. So slightly below that price or slightly above, or just in order to have advantages or not too big disadvantages in competition. A last approach would be that one fixes the price according to reach the break-even point earlier or later. So break-even point would be when the contribution which you get from selling one product, the difference between the price and the variable costs, if that amount begins to cover the total of the fixed cost which you needed to invest. That would be the break-even point. When you got your fixed cost back, then it might naturally be an idea to say, okay, we fix the price in a way that the break-even point can be reached relatively quickly. It might be, on the other hand, that with another strategy you might be able to earn a higher profit in the long run, but a break-even point might be later, so that there is more uncertainty about future developments. That all is possible. When it comes to setting the price, there are different strategies known. One is the so-called skimming strategy. When you begin to sell your product, you choose a high price, let's say 200 euro, and naturally now only those people can buy and will buy the product who are willing to pay 200 euro for it. Probably a small amount of people. A bit later you begin to lower the price to 180 or 170. Now these people who found the product attractive but the price too high, and were only willing to pay 170 or 180 for the product, now they begin to buy the product. And then you lower the price step by step over time. In the end, what you achieve by that is every customer pays his personal maximum price for the product, because those who would be willing to pay up to 200 euro pay them and buy in the beginning. Those who would only be willing to pay 180 buy them some months later. They see, oh, the price has dropped to 180, okay, now that's okay, now that's a fair price. Those who are still deterred by 180 drop in when you lower the price to 140, and so on. So a skimming strategy is a way to make every customer pay the highest, his personal highest price. By the way, you must be very cautious with that, because if you lower the prices too quickly, then those who bought it for 200 in the beginning will probably be angry and feel that you played bad tricks on them. So you can only lower the prices over a longer period of time, or you have to modify the product in a way that those people who paid the high price see the low price later not as a price for that what they bought. For example, with books, you very often have a book which is finely bound and sold for €50. And then 2 or 3 years later, when all the people who were willing to pay the high price have bought it, then the pocketbook edition comes with probably a smaller pages and yeah, not so nicely bound, and now half of the price or so. But then customers who bought it for the high price think I have the better quality item, and also I got it earlier, okay, but mine is the better quality, and naturally the finely bound book with DIN A4 format is naturally more expensive than the pocketbook with DIN A5 and only paperback. So I accept this price difference. But that's naturally also a kind of skimming strategy. First, you offer the book at a high price of, let's say, €50 to all the people with enough money, and later, when they are served, you publish the pocketbook edition for a smaller fraction of the price. Another strategy is the penetration strategy. That means you want to penetrate the market as quickly as you can and generate high demand and high amount of sales directly, immediately. The idea is, when I can quickly produce a high number of items, then my fixed cost per item go quickly down, and it might be that I can obtain a market share which is so high that my other competitors have no chance to outcompete me via lower costs. A penetration strategy has often been chosen when the costs per item in case of small numbers would be too high. For example, when mobile phones were introduced, one of the aims of the suppliers was to generate huge demand and huge sales numbers immediately, because the fixed cost for the telephone net were so high that you needed a massive number of customers quickly, because otherwise there would have been no realistic way to cover the fixed cost. So they even in the beginning subsidized the acquisition of mobile phones by customers. You often got the mobile phone for free in order to generate a huge number of customers from the beginning, to have a low amount of fixed cost per item per customer in the beginning already. Otherwise, the product would have had no chance. There is also there are also some examples from history that people used a very clever penetration strategy, for example, by offering a technological device which you needed nearly for free, and then earning the money via the supply of raw material. For example, it is said that when Rockefeller wanted to create demand for his oil for lamps, he gave nearly every household a lamp for free and a sample of his oil for free, so that the people could make the experience that it was very convenient. And then later he had already a huge number of customers informed and familiar with this product, and later then sold them regularly the oil which they needed to run the lamps. Also a kind of a penetration strategy actually. Another thing might be printers. I don't know if you have observed that printers for computers are usually very, very low priced. You even get some printing cartridges for free. But then, naturally, once you have decided for a printer later, then you buy the cartridge for the ink at a relatively high price. And so, yeah, you have been brought into contact with the product at a low price, and later that strategy pays off. Other strategies of pricing are known. For example, there are firms who offer days with discounts, 20% discount only today. There are other firms which insist we never make discounts. We don't want to have people bargaining for price always and waiting for discounts. So we just make a guarantee that our price is always the same. That's called an everyday low pricing strategy. So you just say our price stays low. You would never admit it stays high. So you always call this your lowest price, and this low price will be kept. There will be no discounts, so waiting for discounts makes no sense. You can have a high or low pricing strategy. Begin with a high price, then have some special offers. Now everyone says, okay, that product normally costs 2,000 euro. Now I can get it for 1,200. That's a really good bargain. I buy now. Then afterwards you have again several months with the regular price of 2,000. Later again you make a special offer season. So you would have some few customers buying during the high price period and the others dropping in when the price dropped to make use of the special opportunity. Bundling is a pricing strategy which you can do, that is selling two products together for a fixed price, which is then a bit more attractive than buying the two products separately. Or you can do psychological pricing. That would, for example, mean you sell for $15.99 instead of 16, because $15.99 sounds nicer than 16 for the customer. Psychologically, that plays a role. Okay. Number 3, place. What marketing can also influence is the place and the conditions where that product which you produce or the service which you produce is offered to the customers. And so you can decide which places will it be sold, in which way will it be sold, how can it be distributed to that place, and so on. There usually you don't act completely on your own, but you will use intermediaries. So traders, wholesalers and retailers, organizations which bridge the gap between you, the producer, and the customer. So these are the intermediaries. And sometimes you have a chain of intermediaries and a set of marketing intermediaries that play together to transport and store goods on their way from producers to consumers. That's also called a distribution channel. And there are several potential distribution channels. You can try to sell directly, you can try to sell via TV shows, you can use wholesalers and retailers and all that. You can make up an online shop, things like that. So when one deals with that aspect, naturally one must know a bit about the people who can become active there. You have agents or brokers, people who bring buyers and sellers together but do not buy themselves. So they are just people who establish the contract and motivate two parties to make a contract, and that is usually for which they are paid. But they are not a contracting party themselves. For example, the insurance agent just asks you or convinces you to ask an insurance company for an insurance contract, and that is what that person does. A wholesaler buys and then sells to retailers, so to people who sell to final customers. And there are many, many different kinds of wholesalers, naturally. And retailers are organizations that sell to consumers. Now, all these people, naturally, retailers, also compete with each other. So there one has to look how one can survive competition. Price naturally plays a role when you offer something to consumers, but as you have heard already, for the final consumer, the total product offer plays a role. So you can distinguish yourself from your competitors via a good service or via the location. It's very convenient. The people in a certain area just can walk some 2 minutes and then reach your shop and can buy there. That's far more convenient than having to travel for 3 kilometers and then go to buy there. You can distinguish yourself by the range of products which you have in stock. So the selection. There are certain shops which have a small number of products available, and you might have the strategy that your aim is to have all variants and all potential products always in stock. For example, that was one of the strategies of the Toys R Us store for games and playing stuff for children. That made that shop always highly dangerous. When you entered it with children, no child can ever leave such a shop without crying, because they always want to have everything. And now the problem is there is everything. It can also be a way to say I distinguish myself as a place to sell by the way how I offer my product. So I combine, for example, shopping with entertainment. Shopping malls very often follow that idea. All that is possible. You can also distinguish if there is an intensive distribution, a selective or an exclusive one. An intensive one would mean nearly every shop at every corner has your product. That would be a good idea for everyday life products. Exclusive distribution, very exclusive products, luxury products with a high image, certain image. That would be rather a contradiction if you there choose the intensive distribution model. If you can buy a Rolex at every tobacco shop and at Aldi everywhere, that would probably spoil the image of a Rolex watch as a luxury product. A luxury product is something which is rare and special, and so if you can buy that at every corner, that's probably the wrong approach. Exclusive distribution would be in its purest form that you say in a certain area only one shop gets the right to trade with my product. So if I already have one trader for my product in, let's say, the Lower Rhine area, then no other trader will be accepted by me in that area as marketing intermediary. You can only buy there. That would be a way, for example, to limit price competition strongly. Selective distribution would be something in the middle. You don't sell to every shop who is interested, but you you restrict carefully with which wholesalers or retailers you are going to work together. The idea is that you have certain requirements. Yeah, many forms of retailing can be distinguished. Always new forms show up. For example, online shops in the internet are new. Telemarketing via TV was created after TV was no longer a state monopoly. So then private TV network owners began to set up telemarketing shows where products were shown and people could buy via telephone calls. And naturally, telemarketing can also be selling goods by telephone. You get a call, are you interested in, and so on. So with call centers. Direct selling is something where you visit customers at home. Is traditional for certain cosmetics. In Germany also one traditional supplier of vacuum cleaners does direct selling. There the positive aspect could be that you establish a kind of a personal relationship to the marketing agent who drops in from time to time and shows you the new products or gives you the spare parts for repair or so that personal relationship can form a certain kind of guarantee or can facilitate for customers to stay with your brand and don't look for other products. Last aspect is promotion. So informing and reminding people of your product. Advertisements, newspapers or TV. The idea is I give you information on my product and try to persuade you to purchase it. When you do promotion activities, you must naturally know when you send a message to a mass audience, you must know what is your audience, which methods can I find to get into contact with that audience, which message will they appreciate. So, which total product package, total product offer part makes my product attractive to them. Very often these promotion activities are done by professional marketing agencies. You know that. So in promotion you can think about advertising, public relations, sales promotion and personal selling. Advertising is what you know, anonymous. Public relations is you inform the public about what you are doing. Public relations is, in contrast to advertising, typically unpaid. Sales promotion is via discount activities also, and personal selling is you meet customers in person, so face to face. So public relations would be in contrast to advertising, that you inform the public about your activities and try to build up a positive image. That happens very often, by the way. I can even remember some 20 years ago when the Harry Potter books appeared, and it was in the news that some bookshops began to sell the new Harry Potter volume at 1 minute after 12 at midnight, because there was a first day when all retailers had to promise that they don't sell the books before the official publication date, and on that date then some bookshops opened at 12 in the night and sold 1 minute after midnight and had organized parties before, and that was even so interesting that it came on the news on TV, and that was naturally a very good means to create unpaid communication to consumers, because people then got informed naturally again about the existence of that book and that it was available now. Now, naturally, public relations is also busy with dealing with complaints, publicity can be positive or negative. That's just making yourself known and typically not paid. Sales promotion activities is discounts, coupons, special occasions. So for business-to-business activities, you cannot impress people so much by events. There more the information aspect counts, like trade shows, trade fairs, so trade fair officially, so that people present their products to a professional audience. A very important thing is that all the promotion activities must form or fit into a single concept, because when you communicate to your consumers, to your customers, you cannot afford to create contradictory messages, so that in the end people are confused, regard the information which comes from you as a lie and things like that. Now, putting that all together, we can sum up. A company needs marketing and needs a marketing concept. That is, they must form opinions about how can they satisfy consumers' needs through a set of activities which should be coordinated, so follow a common plan and which allow the firm to achieve its objectives. The marketing concept should be, as we said, first find out customers' needs. That was market segmentation. Which customers are outside there? Which needs do they have? Then you imagine, try out to find out which goods or services you could offer to these people, and then you find a way how you can bring these people to buy that product from you. So then you think about the marketing mix. As already said some minute ago, all these things should be fitting into a wider concept. You should avoid contradictions, so you need a strategy. And in marketing, as usually also in other fields, the term strategy is reserved for long-term plans that you are willing to follow, in contrast to tactical decisions which only have a short-term effect in mind. So a strategy is a set of activities and plans which you set up to reach your aims in the long term. There you define your aims, and you establish a plan how you want to reach these aims. And naturally, a long-term strategy has always to be reviewed from time to time if the planned short-term measures still are adequate to reach your long-term aims. And sometimes you have to change your short-term activity plans because something has changed, but the long-term strategy can remain the same. As a thumb rule, you could say the more short-term an objective is, the more detailed the planning will be. Whereas when you have long-term aims, then you just say, okay, that requires certain short-term and medium-term aims, and how can I reach them? And probably only when you come nearer to the dates of the future, then you make the planning more detailed, because it makes no sense at the moment to make detailed plans for what you are doing in 10 years, but you would you should have a strategy where you want to be in 5 or 10 years, and begin to plan what is necessary to arrive there in the long run, please, with some realistic ideas. Good. Yeah, here's some recommendation for further reading, and that would be enough for the marketing chapter. I thank you very much for listening, and hope to see you soon again.